Hello, Hall of Fame Dynasty members. It is your Commissioner John once again, and I am here for our Week 6 review. And I know Kevin is calling me out in the Slack right now, trying to say I'm a liar, but I'm here. It was a few minutes late, I'll give you that, but it's much earlier than the past few weeks, or even most times it's a little bit earlier, so that helps. As you can see, I'm off and away from the cold. I finally pushed through that, got over with that. It's been a busy day for me. I've been looking forward to this all day. So I'm glad to be here. And yes, I was 3 minutes late. Give me credit. I was making sure I had it titled right, and I actually put a preview in there or a description for YouTube. So that's in there for once. But it's been a busy week. There's a lot that's gone on, and we draw ever closer to the playoffs. And I'm really excited to see where we're at. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen, because since Kevin's calling me out, I'm going to call him out. And with him losing that this week, it opens the door for a lot to go on in the next few weeks. And I will dig into that here in a few moments. But with that being said, we are officially in Week 19 for hockey. And we are officially into Week 17 for NBA. And as you know, the playoffs for hockey start in Week 22, I believe, as I look here. I believe it's 25 weeks of hockey and 24 weeks of basketball. Yep, and that would be right, because they both end about the same time. So anyways, we are not many weeks away. We have 4 weeks of hockey. I believe we have 4 weeks of NBA at this point, as I pull that up as well. But we're getting close, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, and we'll have to see if the Nashville Predators can hold on to that playoff spot. I mean, Kevin's been talking a little bit of trash recently, saying he's going to hold on, but he will. Let's see if he can actually come through with the wins that he needs. And we'll dig into the hockey first. One of these days we may end up switching to basketball. I may do a different show. But let me update you before we get too deep into hockey. Yes, we do start Week 22 for NBA and Week 22 for hockey. So we will get there at the same time, because hockey starts, the hockey playoffs will officially start on March 4th. And for NBA, the playoffs will start on March 18th. So it's a 2-week difference. And we'll kind of get into that here in a minute. So let me update one little thing that I remembered. Let's see. And you'll see what I'm doing later on. So let's get into hockey before it gets too late here. Why am I printing? Don't want to print the show? That would be a bad idea. I don't think that would work out well for any of us. But anyways, it was a fun week of hockey, and we'll get into the show and the stats here just in a second. So let's get to it. And there we go. So anyways, this is the review for Week 18 of hockey, and this is how it's going to go. We've got, like I said, Nashville lost this last week in Week 18. So with them losing, it opens the door for the Kings or the Wild to actually step in and take their place. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it did make this race a lot more interesting because of the fact that Kevin is now 8-10, while Chris Barnes sits at, I believe, 6-12. 6-12, and then obviously Mac, who had his fire sale, actually sits at 7-11. And is Matt going to have the magic that he had the last 2 sports? Will he be able to make the playoffs in all 3? I'm waiting to see if Matt can pull it off, and he's going to have a good test this week, and we'll kind of dig into the matchups later. He's got a good test this week. The LA Kings do as well in their matchup, and it's actually tied at this moment against the Anaheim Mighty Ducks at 74.9 each. So that is one of the ones to watch for this week. So anyways, with the Hurricanes falling this week, after them losing, they drop to the 4th seed, and the Golden Knights actually are able to jump over them and take that dedicated 3 seed for themselves at this point, with 1 game ahead of them, but they still do trail the Chicago Blackhawks at 1 game behind them. So I wanted to do some interesting matchups to watch for the next few weeks because of the fact that everything is so tight. Nobody has run away with this like we did with football. We are neck and neck everywhere. Anything could happen in the next 4 weeks. So week 20, there's 2 matchups I'm really looking at personally that are going to be really interesting to see what happens because of the playoff seeding. The first game is the Carolina Hurricanes at Nashville Predators. That one's interesting, one, because Kevin needs to win. His Predators need that win. They need to continue a win streak, or at least start one, and hopefully they can do that this week against the Vegas Golden Knights. But don't get ahead of yourself. And the other important part is the Carolina Hurricanes. If they want to stick in the playoff race, if they want to have a chance, they need to prove that they aren't a pretender. The contender status is on them now, but they have not been living up to expectations as of the last few weeks. After starting 4-0, they are down to 11-7. So obviously that they still have the 4-game buffer from earlier this year, but they need to prove that they are still in it to win it this year. The next game that we have is the LA Kings at Chicago Blackhawks. That's the other one that I'm watching for. One, because the LA Kings, if they can topple the Blackhawks, that's going to be fun for the entire league. And then 2, it all hinges on what happens with the Predators. But if they're able to win against the Blackhawks, they can beat almost anyone at that point then. Moving to week 21, we have the Colorado Avalanche at Chicago Blackhawks, and that's going to be a big decider for that number 1 seed. Because say Colorado, the Avalanche and the Blackhawks go into week 21 with the current record, say they both win the next 2 weeks, in week 19 and week 20, they'll be separated by 1 game. But looking at the standings and the results from earlier this year, as I pull it up here, these 2 teams, I believe, have gone 1-1 at this point. So Avalanche, yeah, I got absolutely murdered in week 3. Actually, no, I've only faced the Avalanche once, apparently, somehow. Nope, there it is. It was a recent one. I thought so. Page didn't properly load. But the 2 teams are currently 1-1 against each other. Whoever wins that matchup not only takes if the Colorado Avalanche win, obviously they get the lead for the overall in the league. They'll get that number 1 seed at that point because they'll have the 2-1 record over the Blackhawks. But if the Blackhawks win, they'll have the 2-1 season record over the Avalanche. And even if they will have to tie overall in record for those 2 to be able to, for the Blackhawks to take that number 1 seed. It's going to be a wild push. It's going to be fun. So we'll see what happens there. And then also in week 21, you've also got the Minnesota Wild that I'm looking for here in this week. Like I said, they haven't been the best. They've had a lot of bad luck this year. They did go through their fire sale period, but them taking on the Vegas Golden Knights, who have been really good as of late, could make a huge difference because in week 21, there is a pretty good matchup there for the Nashville Predators, because in week 21 they will face off. Let's see, 21 they will take on the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. So that's a big game there as well. But if Minnesota can topple the Golden Knights, that's going to open the door to a whole bunch of scenarios. And then obviously in week 22, if the Minnesota Wild win the previous week, they'll move on to the Carolina Hurricanes, which if they win there is going to throw everything into a tailspin. The Nashville Predators will have to win to be able to make the playoffs at that point. But my game of the week for week 22 is that Minnesota Wild at Carolina Hurricanes, just because the way these 2 teams have played. I think that's going to be a fun matchup there. And Chris, what do you mean by what happened? I told you I was doing the review today. You shouldn't be surprised by that. But moving on, let's get into the current playoff picture. Like I said, we've got a lot of interesting matchups coming up. Currently, the Colorado Avalanche hold that number 1 seed, and they're looking to hold on to that. They don't want to drop any further because at this point, they've got the easiest path to the championship, and they want to hold on to that. The Blackhawks are sitting at number 2. They want to move out of that. They want to try and snag that number 1 seed if they can, but they're holding tight onto that bye week, and I'm looking forward to that. That'll be nice to be able to have that 1 week buffer. It's kind of screwed me in football, but it happens. So Blackhawks with number 2, and the biggest change that we see here are the Vegas Golden Knights, who jumped up to that 4 seed over the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Ducks are sitting at number 3. And obviously, the Ducks would probably prefer to sit at the number 3 spot. Unfortunately, if the Blackhawks do move up, they'll have to face Keith, obviously his biggest opponent. He was able to topple him in football after being beaten down in baseball. He's looking for another redemption. He wants to have that 2-1 record. And then obviously we've got Kevin sitting at number 6, who's yet to make the playoffs at all in our inaugural seasons. But Kevin's looking to do some damage. I think he's ready to do it. He's got a hell of a team he's just drawing some bad luck recently like I did earlier in the year. So Kevin, Nashville Predators, keep it up. You guys are kicking ass. I'd like to see you guys make the playoffs for the first time this year. It'd be nice for the inaugural season. So let's move back in and do a little reflection on this past week, which was week 18. We obviously, this big slaughterhouse here, the biggest thing, and I'm actually going to cut the feed for this real quick. Screw it. We'll leave it. I didn't do I realized I didn't do the transitions here for everything else. My bad. Whatever. 100-point win for the Vegas Golden Knights. 106 points over the New York Rangers. Not a whole lot of surprise here. You've got the Vegas Golden Knights, who now move to 12-6, while the New York Rangers fall to 4-14. I will be coming up with a poll either tonight or tomorrow for a possible thing. Actually, for, I would say, rewards for people who finish at the bottom of the NHL league. Because of the fact we don't have a draft, we don't have draft picks, it's the one league we need to find an incentive for whoever finishes last. I feel like there should be some incentive to try and not finish last, but even if you're at the bottom, you want to try and get something for it. So I've got a few ideas. I'll bounce them off you guys tonight, but obviously New York Rangers fall once again. Not a whole lot of surprise. It's our first game. This is the first one we kind of expected. This was a known outcome. Vegas Golden Knights get their first win. Really, it wasn't even close. Over 1 more point per start for the Golden Knights over the Rangers with 4.91 compared to 3.81. And a lot of it actually came from the fact that their goalie play was outstanding this week. And not only that, they doubled the amount of assists that the Rangers had. When you're setting your guys up for shooting chances, when you're getting the puck where it needs to be, when you're getting it to the slot, when you're setting your guys up for success, you're most likely going to find success. And that's what the Golden Knights did this week. They marched into New York, planted their flag, and said, "This is ours. You're not going anywhere." And the New York Rangers just kind of had to take it. They couldn't do much. Obviously, they trailed by 70 points from their skaters, but the biggest thing was goalies. The goalie play was outstanding for Vegas this week as they put up 40 total points compared to 8.6 out of the goalies for New York, as they did have their lineup set this week, but it really didn't matter. And our 3 stars of the week. And the funny thing is here, Vegas Golden Knights, the players that they traded for earlier this year are coming up clutch. 1 second. Much better. I can talk now again. The 2 players that are on the 3 stars of the week will start at number 3 with defenseman Colton Parayko, who came up with 28.4 points for the Vegas Golden Knights. They obviously traded for them early in the season. They were able to acquire this young man for their blue line, and he did very well this week. You had center Matt Duchene put up 30.2 points for the New York Rangers, and that was their best performance. They didn't get a whole lot from the rest of the team. As you can tell, Matt Duchene put up about 1/7 of the team's total points, and that's just brutal when we have the rosters that we have. And then finally, our top star of the week in this matchup was center Ryan Johansson with 31.1 points for the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, he plays for the real-life Preds. It was a guy that the Vegas Golden Knights acquired much earlier this season, and that move is finally starting to pay off for them with 31 points in a much-needed win as they try and keep pace with the Chicago Blackhawks. Moving on, talking about the Blackhawks, they actually faced some very stiff competition this week from Steve and his Tampa Bay Lightning. Unfortunately, they still fell about 80 points short at this point, with the Blackhawks putting up 360.9 to the Tampa Bay's 282.7. They are 2-16, while the Blackhawks move up to 13-5. hell of a year for the Blackhawks. And unfortunately, these Tampa Bay Lightning are not the same Tampa Bay Lightning we see every time they play on the TV. It's not the same thing. I think they'll bounce back next year. They've got a lot of youth, and we'll actually move into one of the big pieces of youth that you see here at the bottom with our 3 stars of the week, as I'll get to that in a minute. But once again, not a close matchup. Similar amount of starts with 63 to 65, but the Blackhawks were able to average a full point better per start, which is excellent. And yes, thank you, Chris. I totally forgot to mention that, but the Blackhawks are up to a 10-game win streak after starting the season the way they did. And I will look at the standings now to try and remember what I started out at. The Blackhawks have been on fire for the last 2.5 months, which is batshit crazy to me. I mean, for anything in fantasy, regardless if it was my team or if it was anyone else's, the fact that you go 2.5 months without losing is crazy. Yeah, I lost the first week, or won the first week, lost the next 3. I was at 2-3, then 2-4, 3-4, and then 3-5. Yeah, I was 3-5, and I have not lost since. That is insane to me. I almost sold off. I will be honest. I almost sold off that very early on in the season. Something just told me to stick with it, and I did. But anyways, these two teams actually scored very similarly. 15 goals for Tampa, 14 goals for the Blackhawks. But where we saw the biggest difference was the Blackhawks took advantage of the power play. When they were at a man advantage, they took that and ran with it. 9 more power play points than Tampa Bay and 39 assists. I know we were close until the last 2 days, Steve. You had me sweating this whole week, even as Chris of the Vegas Golden Knights. I was worried about it for a while, and then those last 2 days really made a difference. But where these two teams really separated themselves was in the assists. 21 total, 21 more than Tampa Bay. That's quick math, 63 more points, and that's where the big difference came. Obviously, very similar weeks out of the goalies, which was impressive for Tampa. Even after dealing Andrei Vasilevsky, they're still able to put up a decent amount of points. And about 20 points out of your goalies is where you want to sit. I'd say that's our threshold for a winning week, is if you're above that 20 points for goalies, you're probably in the positive and you're most likely going to win your week. But unfortunately, not the case for Tampa this week. And they did have a top performer, and the one that really stressed me out from the start was our 2nd star of the week. But first, our 3rd star of the week was actually Tampa Bay Lightning in real life, who is center and right winger Steven Stamkos, 30.6 for the Chicago Blackhawks. And then you have left winger Andreas Janssen at 32.9 points for Tampa Bay. He put up 19 that first night. I will tell you, he was crushing my hopes and dreams because I thought it was going to be an easy week. And that didn't happen until the last 2 days, like you said, Steve. And a lot of that came because of defenseman Roman Josi. He put up 39.7 for my Chicago Blackhawks. He was excellent. He averaged 10 points per game. And that was what I love to see out of a blue liner like that. He's excellent on a good team in Nashville, and I was able to take advantage of it. One of my favorite picks in the draft. Now, these next 3 matchups were excellent. Very close, and this is only the 3rd closest one. I know most of you guys have seen the scoreboard. I know you know where I'm going with it, but it's still fun. Anaheim Ducks sneak out of Anaheim with an 8-point win, actually less than an 8-point win over the Carolina Hurricanes, who have been tough all year, regardless of trading off one of their top picks. They were in Nathan McKinnon. They're still 11-7 on the year, even after a tough loss like this, while the Ducks move up to 13-5. And the Ducks are just doing everything they can to try and chase down that Avalanche and ride them all the way to the championship. They want to take down Keith once again. Now, the biggest difference here, you look, obviously, 348.3 from skaters for Anaheim, 319.2 for Carolina, about a half-point difference per start. Carolina actually had more starts, 5 more to be exact. But as you go down this list, 18 goals to 12, 28 to 30 assists, 18 penalty minutes to 30 penalty minutes. Obviously, 12 more points were taken off for the Ducks, so this was a little bit closer than it should have been. Power play points, the Ducks doubled the power play points of the Carolina Hurricanes, which was a pretty decent factor in this win because of the fact that power play points usually sit pretty consistently for teams based on who you have, based on the ice time, based on, obviously, the advantages you're given. But the one that surprised me was the Carolina Hurricanes put up 38.6 points from their goalies. Remember what I told you a few minutes ago. 22 usually is good enough to win a week, but the Ducks blew that out of the water with 51 points from their goalies. Each of his goalies scored more than 15 this week, I believe, as I pull it up here. And that is absolutely insane. I will have to go back, and this will be fun when we're putting together the wrap-up show for hockey. If we're gonna do that, the fact that 51 points feels like that's got to be a season record. The fact that you have that success from a position that is just set up for failure, that any goal allowed is going to hurt. Obviously, you're going to have to face shots to put up points. And, I mean, it is what it is. But Jaroslav Halak, Connor Hellebuyck, and Jacob Markstrom each put up 14.2, 18.6, and 18.2. Holy shit, Anaheim. Jared, that was one hell of a pickup with Jacob Markstrom. He actually played his ass off and got you one win, 12 goals allowed, but 131 saves. Those saves were really, really good. And the fact that he was still able to put up 18 points while allowing 12 goals, that's success right there. He faced a lot of shots and allowed a lot, but still got you the points you need. And unfortunately, none of them will make our 3 stars of the week, but it did start with Carolina as our third star of the week, with Mika Zibanejad at 31.8 for the Carolina Hurricanes. And our second star of the week, defenseman Shea Weber with 32.2 for Anaheim. And of course, Anaheim also drafted this guy and a young stud in center Jack Eichel at 39.2. I almost debated taking Jack Eichel. I took Steven Stamkos first. I probably shouldn't have, but it's worked out in the end. Both have played really, really well. And that was a really good pick by Jared with centerman Jack Eichel. So moving on, this was one of the heartbreakers of the week. I really thought the Colorado Avalanche were going to be overthrown. I knew there was a chance. Kevin and his Predators have been doing everything they can to hold on to that number 6 seed and even try and move up. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case this week, as they lost by 2.6 points to the Colorado Avs. And the Avs will move up to 14-4, while the Preds will drop to 8-10, putting them in that dangerous territory with the Minnesota Wild at 7-11 and the Kings at 6-12. They only hold that 6th seed by 1 game right now, and it's dangerous territory for Kevin. He's doing all he can. He's not sitting back on his laurels and just resting easy. He's doing what he can. Unfortunately, the hard luck hit this week. 319 points from his skaters compared to Colorado's 348. And you look here, not even just over a quarter of a point difference per start. Nashville actually had the scheduled advantage with 3 more starts, and they were able to find more offense, but the biggest difference was those 6 assists. You have 3 more goals, which is a total of 12 points. However, 6 assists at 3 points each, that's 18, outweighs. And it's just unfortunate for Nashville, as they've done all they can to get to this point. You look at everything else. 22 penalty minutes for each team. Nashville with the 3 power play point advantage, and even a 0.6 point advantage from goalies. They did all they could. And looking at the rest of the box score, you really see they played these games close. Colorado had 1 more game-winning goal. They had 16 less hits, but they had 13 more blocks, and that's another reason they won. Those blocks are so damned important. And at a point each, 13 points right there. The Preds did have the face-off win advantage, and it really just came down to the small things. Colorado's done that. That's why they are 14-4 at this point. They are in the lead for a reason. They play a very fundamentally sound game. Nashville is finding that groove. I tell you guys, they are dangerous. Don't let them slip through the crack. Don't overlook Nashville just yet. So, and with that, the reason I say that is they picked up a good center in Sean Couturier before the trade deadline, and he's showing dividends already. He is earning points for the Nashville Preds at 28.7 this week. You had center Anze Kopitar at 29.3, and then centerman Alexander Barkov at 29.4. Nashville ran the table when it came to good performances. They just couldn't close it out, and that's been the issue for the Preds all year. Maybe there's a guy that they're able to pick off the waivers. And Jeff Carter getting hurt last week definitely hurt with only 1.1 points on the week, 2 shots on goal and 3 faceoffs won. A lot of that falls on him. So I expect if the Nashville Preds can get healthy, they will be a team to watch in the playoffs. Unfortunately, just not this last week. And for the true heartbreaker of the week, it is the Minnesota Wild winning by 0.2 over the LA Kings. And with that 0.2 loss, it really doesn't matter whether you win by 50 or you lose by 0.2. It's all matters in the wins and losses. It doesn't matter how close it was. Unfortunately for LA and their GM, Chris, they fall to 6-12 on the season, while the Minnesota Wild are 4 games out from 500. We have 4 weeks left. If they were to win out, they could hit the 500 mark, which they haven't done all season, I believe. And that would be a hell of a year, especially after the fire sale and getting mostly youth back for their team. I'll be excited to see what Mac and his Minnesota Wild can do after toppling the LA in a good week. And you look here, LA really should have won this matchup. 323.4 points from skaters, 328 for Minnesota. But I tell you, look at the points per start. This is why I have this stat up here. 10 more starts for Minnesota. They needed every single damn one of them to be in this matchup because they were almost a full point shorter than LA was. You take away one of those starts, and Minnesota is not sitting in the driver's seat right now for that for that number 6 spot. And it is a giant if, Chris, and I know that. You look, 19 goals to 15. Obviously, like we talked about, assists are so damned important. They are much more consistent, it seems. I could be wrong on that. But 36 assists for Minnesota, 29 for LA. Neither of them played a clean game. They both kind of screwed themselves out of an easy week with 40 penalty minutes to 34. And both took advantage on when they had the man advantage, both hitting double digits in power play points. And goalies, both above 30 points. Excellent, excellent weeks. But it just goes to show that every little damn thing counts in this game. I will say that Minnesota's built a good team, and a lot of that shows with our 3 stars of the week in center Dylan Strome, who they traded for, and has looked excellent ever since he came to Chicago in the trade with Arizona. He was a guy that just needed a change of scenery, and he's been a point per game pretty much ever since he came to Chicago. I figure that's going to cool down at some point, so that'll hurt Minnesota in the playoff race if he does cool down. But he'll still have center John Tavares to take over that spot if need be, as he put up 34.5 points on the week for Minnesota. And the biggest one, and the reason that LA was in the spot they were in, was center Patrice Bergeron with 43.6 points. Now, before we move on from this week, I want to look at and dig into, I mean, you look at this once again, the LA Kings had 175 more faceoff wins versus the Minnesota Wild 133. They had 5 goalie wins compared to 2 for Minnesota. Everything was in the deck for LA to win this game, and all it took was a simple shot on goal. One more shot on goal for them or one less, and this game is completely flipped. And that is where the advantage came. 7 more shots on goal for Minnesota. This was one hell of a week. I thought we couldn't get any closer than the week that Nashville lost by 0.4. But damn, you guys found a way. Now, will anyone ever lose or win by 0.1? Which would be that face-off one? I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. And I'm hoping we have plenty of years to try and break it, because I'm sure we'll find a way. So looking ahead, son of a bitch, week 19 is what that should say. A little ahead of myself earlier today. So week 19, and I will actually fix that just so it is not screwed up for the future. But week 19 matchups. And with that, obviously myself versus Minnesota. I know you guys just saw everything. Don't really care. Minnesota versus myself. They're hosting the Chicago Blackhawks in Minnesota. As much as I like what the Minnesota Wild have been doing, I don't have a lot of faith in their team. Casey Middlestad has been hurt recently. Who knows if he'll get back? Goalie John Gibson kind of hurts. So give me the Chicago Blackhawks in this Week 19 matchup. Next, you've got the Anaheim Mighty Ducks taking on the LA Kings. And I'd like to pick the LA Kings. I'd like to see them succeed. Chris Barnes, you've done such a wonderful job in this league since coming in. You've been excellent with suggestions for the league, for ways to improve or rules or whatever else. You've been excellent in helping that. But I'm going to give the win this week to Anaheim. I think he takes it. I think Jared continues his solid push for that #1 spot in the Belfour division. And it may happen, it may not. But Anaheim is going to fight their way to the top as hard as they can. And like I said, sitting at #1 is the Colorado Avalanche. I've got them winning this week over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa showed their stuff last week against a tough Chicago team. I don't expect them to be able to play up to it this week. Obviously, they've still got a minor in their starting lineup, so that kind of hurts. But injuries and Andreas Janssen putting up another 30 points is tough. He's a young kid, and he's on a good team in Toronto, so maybe he can do it, but I don't have faith in him being consistent, so give me Colorado. Now, this is my matchup of the week. The Nashville Predators taking on the Vegas Golden Knights, and at this point, it doesn't look good for the Preds. They currently trail by, as I look here, about 20 points. Not looking great. Actually, 30 as I refresh. And I wanted to take Nashville. I tried in all my might to convince myself to do it, but I'm going to go with it for the upset of the week. I don't feel confident in it. I think the Golden Knights have just been such a good team this year, but the reason that I'm going with the Preds is they've got something special about them, that they're able to put themselves in position every single night. They just can't close it out. Maybe this is the week. But give me Nashville. I don't feel confident in it. I wanted to pick an upset this week, and that's the one I'm picking. And New York Rangers taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. The Rangers have had problems staying over that 4 points per start. So give me Carolina. Simple pick to end out NHL for this week. So moving on. There was actually a lot of movement over the last week for Week 17 of basketball. Hey, I said you had a chance, Kevin. I picked you, damn it, and I think you can do it. You just need to close out the damn matchups. All it takes is a little bit. But I do have so league news for Week 17 for basketball. We had Mikal Bridges officially join his 3rd team of the year. He loves those 10-day contracts where he sits just on the team, plays for a few games, and gets cut. He's bounced around. I officially drafted him in the 15th round, I believe. Good rookie pick. Hasn't really done a whole lot. Hasn't been as great as people would like him to be. And then was bounced around like a rag doll for the Toronto Raptors. Pick him up, drop him, pick him up, drop him. I think he got picked up 4 times by the Toronto Raptors, but it was recently claimed by the Denver Nuggets. Maybe he's officially found a home. I'd like to see him sit and maybe grow, but he's a guy that he gets you an extra start. He gets you some points, maybe a couple of rebounds, and move on from it. And that's what Toronto loved to do. He was a guy that bounced around. And the Raptors have been turning through some big men recently in the waiver wire, and they've been taking up all of the waiver wire at this point. I mean, we know, obviously, Jared is very high on his team. He's doing what he can to try and win the championship. He was able to take the Super Bowl in football. And if you look at the transaction, you had the Toronto Raptors drop Mason Plumlee, drop Mikal Bridges, pick up and drop Alec Burks, pick up Mason Plumlee, and was just recently dropped again. He loves those big men, and he just keeps turning through them. Obviously, he loves the rebound, so we know what he's trying to do. Denver Nuggets have claimed Ivica Zubac after dropping Jahlil Okafor, who he thought was a steal, and obviously didn't have enough faith to hold him long term. Okafor served his purpose, it seems, and now they've moved on to Zubac. Marcus Smart is now a free agent after being dropped for the from the Denver Nuggets in that move. where they picked up Ivica Zubac. Wait, what? No, Marcus Smart. They picked up Mikal Bridges. Sorry. Read that wrong. Marcus Smart's now a free agent after being dropped by the Denver Nuggets after they dropped Marcus Smart, who's been really a disappointment this year. We thought he was going to be pretty good, but averaging less than 10 points a game, below 3 rebounds a game, and just over 4 assists a game. Not great. Been really terrible on a pretty decent Boston team, but just hasn't served it. And I will remind you guys that this NBA week is 2 weeks long, so don't forget about that. Obviously, it's going to be a weird week, but it runs from February 11th to February 24th. I believe we have the the All-Star game coming up. NBA All-Star game. Yeah, it's February 17th, so that'll affect this weekend. Obviously, February 17th is the start of that game, and that's why this is 2 weeks long. So get ready for a long battle in what are some I thought might be competitive games, but we'll have to see. There's only one that I'm really looking forward to and when it gets down to it. So the current playoff picture in basketball, like I said, we are very, very close. The Toronto Raptors really secured that #1 seed after dropping the Denver Nuggets by a good lead this last week. They are now up 18 wins, and that's a tough hole for the Denver Nuggets to try and dig out of. And the Hawks still hold that 1.5 game lead over the LA Lakers. They are doing everything they can to claw and scratch away from the Lakers. It's not working, but they're able to hold the lead at least. Next, you have the Denver Nuggets sitting at #3. And if they were to play right now, they would take on the Minnesota Timberwolves, who I'm actually really tempted to switch their logo to the one that he's using in the actual league because I love it. And it's exactly what his Timberwolves have been this year. They have been a dumpster fire because of injuries, not because of talent, not because of bad draft. But damn, his team is a hospital right now. I know I'm dealing with hospice with my mother, but that is exactly what your team is right now, Mac. And I love you to bits, but you've had some of the worst luck I've seen in any sport. And when it comes to injuries, nobody in football had this many, and yet you are dealing with it. And then obviously the Lakers sit at #4, and Kevin's Pelicans sit at #5, his best standing out of this entire last calendar year for any playoff spot. Kevin is doing what he can, and he's not that far behind the Los Angeles Lakers. He only sits 1 spot behind him. So at this point, would it be better to hold the #4 seed or the #5 seed? Regardless, he's going to play the Lakers at this point. And if he wins, he's going to face the Hawks, or he's going to face the Raptors. It's going to be a tough road for him to win because he'd have to claim that #3 seed if he wanted to play the Hawks. We'll have to let the season play out and see what happens. So moving on to our first matchup of the week, the Mavs got dominated once again. I put this on me. Not enough starts. I've been dealing with a lot. I'll tell you, hockey's been my main one. Basketball, not so much. I lost this week, 1-8-0. Not enough starts. The Knicks put together a good week with 8-1-0. I mean, that's what they should have done with their all-star team of LeBron and Durant and other guys that they have. They should be dominating teams. They should be really good. A lot of it came to not even roster construction, but the fact of just roster setup. They needed to play, and they did this week. I mean, you look, they dominated me by almost 65 more three-pointers at this point, almost 100 points in field goal percentage. I don't know what the hell happened to my free throw percentage this week. It was absolute ass at 617. That's got to be the lowest point for anyone this year. And I got none of the defensive stuff. I got some steals, a few blocks here and there, really nothing. Didn't turn the ball over at least, but didn't do much. As you can see by my team MVP of Kevin Herder, however you say that. No idea. I'm just having fun with his name. Kevin Herder was my team leader with a 618 field goal percentage, which really good. Rookie, young kid for Atlanta. That sucks when that's your team MVP. But looking at the Knicks, you can see triple digits in rebounds, assists, excellent play by them, almost 900 points. And their team MVP was Miles Turner with 16 blocks on the week. Holy shit, did he kill it. So Miles Turner, excellent pick by him. Very young kid at this point for the Indiana Pacers. He is only 22 years of age, and to go along with the old All-Stars he has, the Knicks are looking to compete. And so they may have gotten off to the rough start that they did, but they are 68, 84, and 1. They are a bit behind the Pelicans with 86 wins, but that Minnesota Timberwolves team, they're looking to take them over right now, and I would not be surprised if they did by the end of the season. Next, we've got the Charlotte Hornets, who dropped their week 2-7-0 to drop to 42, 109, and 2, while the Pelicans sit at 7-2-0 with this week, and they were able to move up to 86, 67-0. Good job with no ties. It's excellent to see. Kind of hard to tie in basketball, but it is what? You won, Kevin. I have no issue with you. You won. I want to see you do well. But you dominated Charlotte, as you should have. Anything less than 7-2-0, you left meat on the bone, but you didn't. You took advantage. And I will say Charlotte played a really damn good game. They may not have the counting stats just yet with their team, as they trade a lot of that away in Kemba Walker and who's the guy that just got hurt? I can't remember his name. But trade away a lot of talent, but he still has the ratios. 482, 835. Still putting up a decent amount of rebounds, only 100 away from the Pelicans. Not close, but not bad either. Limited the turnovers, 390 points scored, and shooting guard Evan Fournier was their best player with 67 points on the week. He did do a good job there. So I'll give credit to Charlotte to being able to at least see talent and put it on the floor in Fournier. I'll be excited to see what they can put together next year. But this just wasn't their week. This isn't their year. We kind of knew that when they were buying into baseball. Pelicans killed it. 83 pointers. Free throw percentage, I think a little bit below from last week. Still close to that 800 mark, which you'll see in the upcoming matchups, that the top teams usually don't have a good free throw percentage. It usually is a sacrifice stat. But good job on the Pelicans. That's one that they could secure really well in the playoffs, as you also see with rebounds and assists, steals and blocks. They are very, very, very they excel at that. They're very productive. That's the word I was looking for. Only 85 turnovers. They scored 783 points. Not the best on the week. We know that. But they are playing very well. Their team MVP was Josh Richardson with 63 field goal percentage. And that's a hell of a week. I'll give him credit. That's amazing. Good job on that pick. So let's see you keep pushing for that playoff spot. I want to see you excel. So go at it. Bulls, once again, dropped another week. They lost 2-7-0. The Hawks win 7-2-0. Everyone wants to play the Hawks. They've been good, but they haven't been dominant like the Raptors. I expect the Hawks to make a push. I don't know how far they can get. A lot of it is the fact that they are sitting in the I can't remember what division I'm in even. Damn. Oh, boy. We are in the Michael Jordan. That's right. We are in the Michael Jordan division. I mean, you have the Timberwolves, who are constantly hurt. You have myself, who I've honestly paid zero attention to basketball over the last 4 weeks. And the Hornets, who sold off half their team within the first 2 weeks. The Hawks are getting lucky. They are in a bad division. You put them in the Bird division right now, they're sitting third. And even then, they probably wouldn't be sitting that good because of the competition they would have to face. But looking at it, they really didn't play all that outstanding. Yeah, they lost field goal percentage to the Bulls. They easily won free throw percentage, but that's easy when you're facing 656. But everything else was pretty out of hand for the Hawks. The closest one was blocks. Obviously, steals was pretty close as well. But everything else was pretty out of hand. Chicago, I don't know if they set their lineup, but everything was really in the Hawks' favor to win this one fairly easily, and they did. As you can see, Nikola Jokic played really well. He'd hit double digits with rebounds and assists, along with 68 points. Really good week out of power forward Nikola Jokic. I got to say the Bulls have to work on their steals, their assists, and the free throw percentage. That's got to be the hardest thing they hit this offseason. They need to find those ratio guys. Good free field goal percentage, but you don't have those big boomer bust guys. Sometimes you need those boomers to bring everything else up. And then obviously team MVP for the Atlanta Hawks was shooting guard Malcolm Brogdon with 66 points, who also put up a double-double with rebounds and assists. And I will say, a good week. Unfortunately, it wasn't Trae Young to be the MVP for the Hawks. Why don't we take a look at his shooting percentage on the week for young Trae Young, who shot .392 and only put up 62 points, a lot of assists, but shot below 400 again. Good luck with that, Chris. Have fun. So moving on to our next one, we do have the Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And with that winning week, the Lakers do bring up to 87-65-1, while the Timberwolves fall to 70-82-1. I really thought the Lakers were going to have an easier time with Minnesota. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I don't know how the Lakers left with only 6 wins. They need every win they can get. The Hawks have been playing well, and it'll be tough to see if the Lakers can catch them, because that one game has eluded them the last 3 or 4 weeks. And a lot of it here, the biggest thing that hurt them was field goal percentage. They didn't have enough blocks somehow, even with all the injuries. I mean, I can understand. Okay, the Timberwolves won in ratios. They won in looking here real quick. They won in blocks. They won in turnovers. Turnovers and field goal percentage, I expect bad teams to win because of the fact that if you don't get enough starts, you don't have enough opportunities to turn the ball over. If you have injuries, most of the time your field goal percentage is going to be higher because you have less points being made or less opportunities to shoot. How the hell did the Minnesota Timberwolves still put up 211 rebounds with half their team dead? Explain that one to me. And they're right there with steals and points as well. They lost by 3 points. Unless I have that wrong, which I may have, but I didn't think I did. No, the Timberwolves lost by 3 points. They put up a hell of a week with their team pretty much on bed rest at this point. And a lot of that was Lauri Markkanen with 81 points and 39 rebounds for the Chicago Bulls. And obviously the Timberwolves are happy to have him. Excellent week out of him. He's still got Timberwolves have a little bit of a way to go. Most of that's due to health, though. If they can get healthy, I could see them making a run. It's all if they can, though. Obviously, the biggest guy here is for the Lakers was team MVP was small forward Taurean Prince with the 100% free throw percentage this week. And a lot of what else he also did was put up 55 points, 13 3-pointers, 10 assists. Not a whole lot when it came to helping teammates, but he was at least able to help carry that free throw percentage for the week. And now the one that I thought was going to be closer, the final matchup of this review, was the Toronto Raptors and the Denver Nuggets. This was a slaughter. A lot of it was the fact that Toronto did stream some players. I've got no problem with it. We have FOB. We have the free agency acquisition box for a reason. If you feel like streaming, go ahead. You may hurt yourself in a lot of ways. You may help yourself. It all depends on who you pick up. The Raptors did it right, and I also know the Nuggets hurt themselves because they did end up leaving Luka Doncic on the bench one of the nights. He forgot to set his lineup, thought he said it, totally didn't, and he fully admitted to it. It happens. So Denver Nuggets drop a tough week, and even with all the streaming, you see it didn't seem to hurt the Raptors all that much. They still shot for over 500 from the floor, triple digits in 3-pointers, and the biggest one that stuck out to me was the fact that they still shot an .875 free throw percentage over the Nuggets. The fact that they were able to compile that while they were bouncing around big men this last week was impressive. Obviously, with the big men, you're going to get the rebounds. You may get the assists, sometimes steals, but you're able to get the blocks. And those 4 blocks, I'm sure, came in from those pickups. The 200 points always helps. But the fact the Raptors dominated this one, over 100 more rebounds, the assists were close, steals not even close, but blocks, turnovers, points scored. I don't know what Denver's going to do if the Raptors keep playing this well. it really looks like the Raptors are going to be on their way to a championship this year. And a lot of that's on James Harden, him putting up 19 3-pointers in a week. He was almost a team MVP for Toronto, but I gave it to Bradley Beal. And a lot of that was the fact that, yeah, he had 9 less points than Harden did, but he also shot for a better field goal percentage, a little bit less of a free throw, but he really assisted in rebounds. He had way more assists, 9 steals compared to Harden's 6, 1 less block, few more turnovers. But the Raptors don't give a shit if they give the ball away. They'll take it right back, as shown by their 67 steals, and go score on your ass. And Toronto did that this week. They showed their dominance over Denver, who was led by team MVP, small forward Bojan Bogdanovic, 90 points, 13 3-pointers. So hell of a week for him. A lot of it should have been on Luka Doncic. Unfortunately, just was on his bench one day, and it really hurt him. So that's this week's review. Or wait, I totally forgot. I forgot I had this slide. Fucked that up. So this week, week 18, like I said, 2 weeks long, boys. So let's see what happens. Shut up. Shut up, Chris. I know. I thought the Bears were going to run away with the 2 in real life and in fantasy, and they both fucking failed. Luckily, mine wasn't due to a goddamn kicker. You are bringing. I feel like I'm getting PTSD from talking about the Bears. Anyways, week 18 matchups for basketball. The Mavs take on the Hornets. This is an interesting one. 2 bottom teams of the league. I've already missed today and yesterday. I totally forgot about it. So I'm going to give this one to the Hornets. I haven't even looked at my team since Sunday, I think. I totally forgot to set my lineup. I've been fighting with my work yesterday. Today I was running all over creation. So I completely skipped on that for this week, or for the last 2 days. It's going to be hard to dig out of the hole from that one. I don't like my chances, even though Charlotte hasn't done a lot of it. Missing 2 days and the amount of starts doesn't help. So I think the Hornets take this one. New York Knicks versus the Raptors. I want to say the Knicks have a chance. I really do. And their lineup has been set for as of late, which is good. I want to see Vic succeed. But it's still the Toronto Raptors and Jared. He's put together a hell of a squad, and I see Toronto winning this one. I don't see much chance for the Knicks. Unfortunately, that's the way a lot of this week I think is going to go, and we're going to see some stupid points from the Raptors. They hit over 1,000 points in single weeks. Could they hit 2,000 in 2 weeks? Not likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if they put up 1,600 for some goddamn reason. The Raptors have that chance. And obviously, I don't see this one being close really either. Denver Nuggets taking on the Chicago Bulls. Give me the Nuggets. They got their ass handed to them by Toronto this last week. They're going to be looking for blood. And as the Bulls say, see red, they're going to be seeing red from the blood that is dripping down from their forehead as the Nuggets slam dunk and drop everything they can on the Bulls this week as they try and catch up to the Raptors in what should be an easy week for them. Now, this is the game I'm watching this week. The New Orleans Pelicans taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. This is my week matchup of the week. Obviously, they both have a lot of stake in this one. The Pelicans sit at the fifth seed right now, just behind the Lakers, and this one is going to decide who gets the home field advantage. Obviously, doesn't really do anything in this, but the fact that you can say you had the higher seed is always a bragging right. And with everything said and done, it's tough for them to do it. It's going to be a fun matchup, but give me the Pelicans. I like what Kevin's done. He's really solidified his intelligence in basketball with me. I think Barnes is right there, but I think the Pelicans are able to sneak out with a 5-4 or 6-3 week. They've played their ass off. The Lakers have 2, but they've shown a little bit more damage to their team. I think that the Pelicans have it. I think they've been hot. I think they've run into some good matchups, and I'd like to see the Pelicans take a 6-3-0 week here. I don't know if they do, but I've got the Pelicans in this week's matchup. So, Kevin, I'm rooting for you. Go ahead and win this week in honor of my pick. And this last one, Minnesota Timberwolves, your team's still half dead. Like you said yourself, I think you had 11 players injured, with 6 of them on the IR. and 5 of them on your bench. You don't even have to set your lineup because of the fact that your guys are just hurt. So I'm taking the Atlanta Hawks. It's an easy pick, mostly just due to the fact that Minnesota is dead. Boots believe? The hell is Boots? The hell is Boots, Kevin? Are we in Canada now? You are about to believe that I can win. I don't know. That was a terrible Canadian accent, but that's the show for this week. I had a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this. I really have. It's been just stress and upset and pissed offness, and just being able to talk fantasy with you guys has helped. Yeah, gotta believe. That makes a lot more sense now that you edited it. I was like, Boots, I saw it. It made no sense. But I do want to thank you guys. You guys have been a joy with everything that's been going on. And I just cannot thank you enough. The fact that I'm able to do this, that you guys enjoy me doing this, that you guys have as much fun as you do. There's been no ill will, at least within the first year of everything, especially with us constantly being in the same chats with each other. You guys have made this a blessing. You guys have made this fun, and I'm glad to have you guys around. So with that being said, I'm still going for the championship in hockey. I will not let up there, and I don't expect you guys to let up either. I'm excited to see what happens. But I will catch you guys next week, and I will see you as the week goes on. And I have a job interview tomorrow, so I may not be as active as you guys would like, but that's that. And I'm hoping to have something hopefully change. And I will talk to you guys next week. I will talk to you guys throughout the week. But good luck, Kevin. I believe in you in hockey. I know you can win in basketball. That you've proven. But get that hockey lineup set and take down those Vegas Golden Knights. It'd be nice to breathe a little bit easier over the last few weeks. Although I think Chris is going to hate me for that last comment. So have a good night. See you guys next week.